Okay, I'm just waiting for the the YouTube to kick in.
Vamos a esperar que YouTube empiece a grabar.
So the first question is from Abhay Krishna. He couldn't be on the call today, but he sent me a question. It's rather long, so I'm just going to read the whole thing. So Abhay says, my question is around how do we properly conceive the difference in personhood between Krishna and Mahaprabhu? As devotees of them both, it's an interesting position as most bhaktas have just one focus of their love, Ram or Narayan, for example. In one sense, this is a lot simpler. Of course, there is only one Supreme Personality, but isn't it also true that Ramchandra, Narayan, and Krishna are, for all intents and purposes, completely different persons? So my question is, if we are trying to cultivate feelings for Krishna, is it okay to think quite literally sometimes that he and Mahaprabhu are the same person, the same target we try to love and have emotions for? As in, Mahaprabhu is the same Krishna we love with the exact same emotional makeup and is just having almost a very extreme Leela where he dresses up in Radha's bhav. Can we think of them as not only one in the sense that Krishna and Ram are one and both different aspects or personalities of the Supreme, but with Krishna and Mahaprabhu that they are also one in personality and emotional makeup to an extent? You use the example often of the diamond with many facets and angles to choose which part of the personality of God we will love. So another way to put this question is, do Krishna and Mahaprabhu make up and share one surface of the diamond we can put single-minded focus on? Or do we need to shift the diamond between the two surfaces like one would between Narayan and Ram, for example? Two personalities, two different angles, which could be okay too, but if it's interesting because I think most other bhaktas only have the one side of the diamond they choose to focus on. I think because Krishna and Mahaprabhu are going through the same extreme emotions only via different angles, that it makes them uniquely more the same and one person in a closer, more dynamic sense than all other avatars and personalities of Godhead. I eagerly await your clarification.
Question.
Buena pregunta, dice Guru.
There's a famous instance in Gaur Leela in which
Hay un ejemplo en Gaur
Advaita
Leela
Acharya
donde Advaita Acharya
offers his respects to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
ofrece sus
Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go
a Chaitanya
Brahmanya Hitaya
Mahaprabhu
Cha
con el mantra
Jagahitaya
Namo
Krishnaya
Brahmanya
Govindaya
Devaya,
Namo
Namo
Namaha.
Brahmana Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha.
So this is obviously a
Es
famous
una
prayer to Krishna.
oración a Krishna.
Namo Brahmanya Devaya, who's dear to the Brahmins, the cows, and so forth.
El que complace a los brahmanas,
But he's offering it
vacas,
to
Pero
Chaitanya
le ofrece
Mahaprabhu.
esta oración a Mahaprabhu.
So there is a difference, yes, between
Entonces sí hay una
Ram,
diferencia
Chandra, for example,
entre
and
Ramachandra,
Krishna,
por ejemplo,
and
y Krishna.
the way that there is a difference between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna.
Así como hay una
So it's
diferencia entre Chaitanya
insightful
Mahaprabhu
of you
y
to
Krishna.
think about it along those
Es bueno
lines.
que lo
If we
pensaste
look
de esa forma.
carefully at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very closely,
Si observamos a
Krishna.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu
if
desde
you look
muy
very
cerca,
closely at Ramchandra, it would be
vemos a
difficult to see
Krishna.
Krishna there.
Si uno observa a Ramachandra,
But if you look very
no vamos a
carefully
ver
at
a
Chaitanya
Krishna.
Mahaprabhu, you'll
Pero
start to see
si
Krishna.
nos enfocamos en Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, vamos
He's
a ver
all
a
about
Krishna.
Krishna. He is
Toda la
Krishna
vida de
Chaitanya.
Mahaprabhu
He is the
es sobre
consciousness
Krishna.
Chaitanya
Él es
of
Krishna
Krishna.
Chaitanya. Él es la
Ram is
conciencia
not
de
in Krishna
Krishna.
consciousness.
Rama no
Ramchandra.
está en conciencia de
But
Krishna.
Chaitanya
Ramachandra.
Mahaprabhu is fully in
Pero
Krishna
Chaitanya
consciousness.
Mahaprabhu sí.
So if we look closely at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we'll see
Entonces,
Krishna.
si nos enfocamos
If we
en
look even
Chaitanya
closer, what
Mahaprabhu,
will we see?
vamos a ver a
Well,
Krishna. Y
we'll
si
see Radha.
estamos muy,
So
muy cerca,
Radha,
¿qué vamos a ver?
Mahabhav, Rasaraj, Dui Ek Rupa.
Mahabhava,
These
Rasaraj,
two,
Dui Ekarupa.
Rasaraj
Estos
and
dos,
Mahabhav,
Rasaraj y Mahabhava,
the
Sarupini,
object of love and the
el
love
objeto del
itself,
amor y el amor
personified in
mismo,
fullest measure.
personificados en su medida más
These two,
completa.
Dui
Estos dos,
Ek Rupa, coming
Dui
in one
Ekarupa,
form.
aparecen
That
en
is
una
Chaitanya
forma,
Mahaprabhu.
como Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's why
Entonces,
sometimes I
Chaitanya
like to
Mahaprabhu
refer to him
a
as Gaur
veces se
Krishna. There's
refiere
Krishna and there's Gaur
a
Krishna.
Gaura Krishna. Se
You
refiere
don't say
uno
there's
a
Krishna
Chaitanya
and there's
Mahaprabhu
Gaur
como Gaura
Ramchandra,
Krishna.
Gaur Nrsinga,
Gaura Krishna quiere decir
or
el Krishna dorado.
Krishna
Nadie dice Gaura
Krishna,
Ramachandra o Gaura Narayana. Bueno,
Matsya. So there is a difference
Entonces sí hay una
in the
diferencia.
difference
Hay una diferencia en la
between Krishna
diferencia
and
entre
Nrsimha
Krishna y
and
Narasimha,
Krishna and Chaitanya
Krishna y
Mahaprabhu.
Chaitanya
They,
Mahaprabhu.
the latter, are one.
Los últimos
And
dos son uno.
Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is entirely
Y
Krishna
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu es
in a
completamente
particular
Krishna
moment, if
en
you
un
will,
momento particular
if you will, in Krishna's Leela.
del lila de
And
Krishna.
that is the moment that constitutes the,
Ese es el
really
momento
the
que
acme and
constituye
the zenith
la
of Krishna
cumbre
Leela, as
del Krishna
deep as you
Lila.
can go
En lo más
into
profundo
Krishna
que uno
Leela.
pueda ir dentro
There
del
you will
Krishna Lila.
find the genesis
Ahí se
of Chaitanya
encuentra
Mahaprabhu, and
la
that of course
génesis
is in the
de
Rasa
Chaitanya
Leela.
Mahaprabhu. Y esto es el Rasa
So the
Lila,
whole
por supuesto.
Bhagavatam
Todo el
builds up to the
Bhagavatam
10th canto, right?
conduce hasta
It's
el
speaking
canto
about
10.
related subjects
Habla de
that are sheltered
asuntos
in an effort
relativos
to help us understand the shelter-giving subject, which is Krishna.
a esto para
So
que
Avatar Tattva, for
acabemos
example, is one of the
comprendiendo el
sheltered
que da refugio a todos estos asuntos.
subjects of the Bhagavatam, and Krishna is the shelter of the avatars. I mean, they come from him. There's the creation, there's so many 9 different sheltered topics, which are big topics.
Hay muchos
And
temas
these are largely the subjects of the earlier cantos leading up to the 10th canto, where the ashray, the shelter of all these sheltered topics, which are huge, is discussed, and he's just a cowherd boy, as it turns out. Well, not an ordinary cowherd boy is the point. That's why Prabhupada would emphasize read the first 9 cantos, then study the 10th canto. So there, there's a progression. And there, when we hit the 10th canto, of course, then there is a build-up from the birth of Krishna
Entonces,
up
en el
to
décimo canto también
his Kumar Leela, his Poganda Leela, his childhood, his boyhood, and his ultimately his adolescence, in which he consummates his relationship with the gopis in the midst of the Rasa Leela. So this is the high point, and then after that, the text is reflecting back
de
on
ahí en
that.
adelante,
Properly
el
understood, the
Bhagavatam
Mathura Leela,
está
the Dwarka Leela,
reflexionando
carefully
sobre
at them.
el Rasa Lila,
They're reflecting back on the virtues of the Braja Leela, where in his absence, apparent absence,
porque en la
their
ausencia de
love
Krishna,
is shining out more
el amor de
brilliantly.
los Brajavasis
So in that
se
Rasa
ve de
Leela,
forma
then there's a point, of course, in which
más
Krishna
evidente.
disappears from the gopis with Radha, then he disappears from
Entonces,
Radha
dentro
as
del
well,
Rasa
then he
Lila hay un
reappears
momento
in
donde
the midst
Krishna
of their
desaparece
kirtan along
de
the
las
banks of the
gopis.
Jamuna. And sheepishly he shows his face, and they have a discussion in which they challenge him and ask him, what kind of lover are you?
Y luego
Anyway,
cuando le
and
alcanzan, los
ultimately he
gopis les
explains
dicen,
that, I
le dicen a
disappeared
Krishna, pero ¿qué tipo de
to see
amante
the
eres?
measure of your love,
Y
because
Krishna
when
dijo,
one
yo
has something
desaparecí
valuable and
para
loses
ver la
it,
medida de su
then their
amor,
love
porque cuando uno tiene algo valioso y lo
increases.
pierde, su
But
amor,
seeing
su
the
apego para
increase
esta
in the
cosa
measure, the
aumenta,
extent
pero
of your love and Radha's love amongst them in particular, Krishna is bewildered,
habiendo visto
right? Because he's Rasaraj, but
la
he
medida del amor de
knows
ustedes,
that the extent
de ellas,
to which they are
Krishna
experiencing,
sabe
Radha
que
is experiencing aesthetic rapture, exceeds
el
that of his
alcance
own
del amor de las
experience
gopis y
of rasa.
ciertamente de Radha
So it's a kind of
es más de la capacidad de Krishna de
existential
devolver
crisis, if you will, for
amor.
Krishna. I thought I
Entonces
was,
ahí
the king of rasa, but
tenemos una
apparently
crisis
there's
existencial
something I don't know about
en
rasa.
él que es el
So
rey
he
de
has to,
raza. Ahí se da cuenta de que hay una cosa de raza que no conoce.
Very, I'm going to say, expert, capable, what's the word I'm looking for? But anyway, he comes up with the means
Entonces, en ese momento,
to taste that, which of course is relative to his nature. He's a thief, so he steals, he wants to steal the bow of Radha. And anyway, at that point, he makes a statement to Radha and the gopis that your love for me is such that I could not reciprocate in kind, even if it took, a day of Brahma
que yo no puedo
do so.
devolverlo ni siquiera
Your
ni si tuviera
saintliness,
un
your
día de Brahma.
sadviness is its own reward. And in that verse, if we look carefully at it, we can see through the grammar and the insights of our acharyas, Sanatana Goswami in particular, but more or less Krishna is saying that the way I can repay you is to become a sadhu like you, and once in the day of Brahma, to appear in the world and make devotees for you.
Lo que sí puedo hacer es aparecer en cada día de Brahma como devoto
so
y hacer
obviously
devotos
this is Chaitanya
para
Mahaprabhu,
ustedes,
right?
dice Krishna.
So if we look very carefully at Krishna Lila, in the depths, esoteric depths of Krishna Lila, we find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the genesis of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there unfolds then the same Lila, but extended in a way that facilitates Krishna's experiencing Radha's love for him from his vantage point. And that's what we call Gaur Lila. Therefore, Rupa Goswami or Jiva Goswami says that, that inside of the hexagon, the square, really, there's a square in which there's a hexagon, right? That square, this is kind of geometric, if you will, sacred geographical description of Goloka. It's rather abstract, but to draw the yantra, it's a square, and the square is called Sweta Dweep. And inside the square, where there's a hexagon, there's six different sections that correspond with the different syllables, the different words, I should say, of the 18-syllable Gopal mantra, and the Kama Bij is in the center, and so forth and so on. That's the sonic, you know, I don't want to say geographic, but geometric. What's the word I'm thinking of? Yeah, I guess it's geometric. And then there's the sonic description, the syllables are there. But anyway, and then there's the poetic, well, it's the lotus and so forth, and the petals. And so anyway, inside the square, there's the lotus, there's the hexagon, and then there's the center, right? The pericap of the lotus, or the center of the hexagon. And so inside the square, there's the center circle, and then there's outside the circle, which is still inside the square, and there's the inside the circle, which is also inside the square. The square is called Sweta Dweep.
Dentro del cuadrado de Shweta Dweep
but
se encuentra este círculo
Jiva Goswami explains that there's Sweta Dweep, and then there's Para Sweta Dweep. So the Para Sweta Dweep is the Sweta Dweep inside the inner circle. And Vrindavan Thakur said that this Leela in the Chaitanya Bhagavad of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Navadweep, the abode for his Leela, is called Sweta Dweep, and in the future this will be celebrated or told, revealed by other devotees. Well, Prabhupada did that. He designed the cover, got an artist to depict it in India, of his Bhagavatam, the first canto, which he came to America with, in which the broad part of the focus is this like sky full of Vaikuntha planets, the center of which is this Sweta Dweep, which is Goloka, and there's Radha and Krishna in the middle. But if you look carefully at it, you see just behind them there, in other words, the lotus within the lotus, if you will, there's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performing Sankirtan. So Gaur Lila and Krishna Lila, they're the same. Ram Lila and Krishna Lila, they're different. They're different. You cannot separate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela from Krishna Lila. You look at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu carefully, as I said, you'll see Krishna. And if you look more carefully, you'll see Radha. And suddenly you'll find yourself in Krishna Lila, right? That's what happened to Ramananda Roy. So yes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in a particular mood within Krishna Lila. So just like we think of Krishna Lila and his different moods at different times within Krishna Lila, well, this is Krishna Lila, and the extension of it. It's kind of like a reverse jacket. You know, you have a jacket that's got gold cuffs, gold collar, and black sleeves and a black body, and you turn it inside out, and it's got black cuffs and a black collar and a golden body and golden sleeves. Well, that is Krishna Lila is like that. It's reversible, and the object of love, Krishna, becomes the abode of love, and he's worshiping in the mood of Radha himself. Right? So it's peculiar. It's a little bewildering. And look at the contrast. The contrast is extraordinary. Krishna playing the flute. And at least in his Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi. You know, the opposite. One is the enjoyer, and the opposite is the ascetic. You know, but so just see what the Goswamis have done to put that together to identify this mendicant Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Pandit, Nimai Pandit, Bhakta, mendicant with Krishna himself. It's quite insightful and drawing, as they have from so many scriptures, to make this case, to point it out, and so on and so forth. So, yes, you know, of course, that said, we have to be careful in one respect.
Aún así, tenemos que tener
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself.
Cuando decimos que Chaitanya Mahaprabhu es Krishna mismo.
And well, if he's Krishna himself,
entonces, si es Krishna
then
mismo,
if Krishna's fullest expression of love is the Rasa Lila with the gopis, then we should become maid servants of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Have Gopi Bhav in relation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the problem with this, of course, is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to enter into Gopi Bhav himself. Are we going to try to take him out?
En el Gopi Bhava, entonces si lo ponemos en la posición del objeto de amor,
Krishna Vrindavan Thakur says very loudly in Chaitanya Bhagavat, we have to worship Bhagwan, Krishna, relative to the mood that he's in. So he is Krishna, Rasaraj, but he's in a particular mood, which he's searching after the Bhava of Radha. So we should honor the mood that he's in and worship him accordingly. Therefore, the Nagar Bhav, which is a thing of Bengal, is not something taught by the Goswamis. And we serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yes, he's Rasaraj, but we don't serve him
ellos le sirven a Mahaprabhu como si fuera Krishna. Sí, es el mismo Rasaraj, pero no le servimos
as gopis. We don't serve him as gopas. Or as parent, we serve him all in Dasya Bhava. So he is Krishna in the mood of a devotee of Krishna. We call it his Acharya Lila, where he's showing the way. And so, in another sense, we see him as the supreme, along with Nityananda Prabhu, guru figures of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And as they worship, we follow their example and worship. So we worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Dasya Bhav, which begets Sakya Bhav in Krishna Lila or Gopi Bhav. Therefore, Prabhupada used to say, worship in Mayapur, live in Vrindavan. That would be the result. One is the practice, the other is the result, and the practice and the result are the same. So I hope that helps. It's a very theologically complex subject, not one that any of you are unfamiliar with, but the question is good and it's worth
no que tú no tengas familiaridad con eso, pero bueno, la pregunta fue muy buena y
Shri Gaur Krishna Ki Jai.
Okay, the next question is from Krishna Kanaya from Berlin. She says, Pranam dear Guru Maharaj. Understanding that Sanskrit is our actual mother tongue, are other languages ungodly? Or was the evolution of different languages Krishna's will? Is there a Vedic version of the Tower of Babel story? Thank you so much. Just a quick reminder that the Tower of Babel idea from the Bible is that all nations had one language and then they came together and they started this city and built this tower, and then God, I guess he got angry about the tower or something, and then he dispersed all people and gave them different languages so that they couldn't understand each other.
I'm not familiar with that story. I don't know any parallel in Hinduism or Vaishnavism. But Sanskrit is thought to be the language of the Devas. It's a celestial language. In that sense, it's not a spiritual language. But being a celestial language, then, arguably,
pero bueno,
it
en
has
cuanto
the
a
power
lengua
to convey
celestial, sí tiene el poder de
insights about divinity that exceed
de conferir
ordinary
relaciones,
languages of the world. At the same time, of course,
sobre lo divino que a lo mejor
Chaitanya
otros
Mahaprabhu and Krishna himself,
idiomas
when they
no van a
came to the
poder
world in the
dar.
Prakat
Al
Lila,
mismo tiempo,
they spoke
Chaitanya
local
Mahaprabhu y Nityananda
vernacular.
Prabhu
Chaitanya
aparecieron,
Mahaprabhu spoke
cuando
Bengali.
aparecieron y hablaban
Krishna
bengalí,
spoke
y Krishna hablaba
Brajbhas, I
Brajabhasi,
guess, the language of Braj
es un
at the
dialecto de
time.
Braj del momento.
And they were at the same time familiar with Sanskrit. Obviously, Chaitanya
Por supuesto,
Mahaprabhu knew
conocían el
Sanskrit. He was an
sánscrito.
expert
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu era
in
un
Sanskrit
profesor de
grammar
sánscrito, de gramática,
and more,
y
right?
más.
But his native language was
Pero su lengua materna
Bengali.
era el bengalí.
The Bengali used at the time is infused with Sanskrit words.
El bengalí de
called
entonces
Sadhu
era,
Bhasha.
tenía
So
mucho
the
sánscrito
Bengali is Sadhu
mezclado,
Bhasha, language of the
se llama
sadhus.
Sadhu Bhasha, o
at the
sea,
time.
la lengua de los
But
sadhus.
regardless, all of these are languages of the
Sin
world.
embargo, todas
So
estas son
in the world,
lenguas del mundo.
well, we're going to have to, if we're
Dentro
going to
del
use
mundo,
language to express,
sí
speak
tenemos
about
que usar lenguas para expresarnos y hablar
divinity,
del
we're going to have to
divino.
use a particular language of the world to do so, which has its limitations.
Tenemos que,
Some of these
cualquier
languages,
idioma va a
let's say
tener sus
Sanskrit
limitaciones.
in particular, well,
El sánscrito en particular se presta más.
may lend itself more to such. Bengali language lend itself more to enabling us to penetrate into the culture in which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu
El
appeared.
bengalí nos ayuda a
and so
penetrar
forth.
en
So
la
it's
cultura
valuable
donde apareció Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, por eso que es valiosa para
to
nosotros.
learn these languages, to be familiar with them, but they have their limitations. And
Pero
so
tienen sus
the
limitaciones
language
cada una.
of
La lengua
that said, so the language of the spiritual world, the language of
del
Vrindavan,
mundo
is
espiritual, la lengua de
we
Vrindavan,
want to say it's love. Love is the
decimos que
language.
es el amor.
Their
El amor es una lengua.
bhava is fueling everything. So it's a
bhava
very different
es lo que
world, if you will. There's a likeness and a similarity, and as much as there would be and a reflection of oneself, similarity to oneself, but there's a huge difference at the same time, between the reflection of oneself on the water or in the mirror and oneself.
El mundo material es un reflejo del mundo
similarity is
espiritual.
there, but the difference is glaring as well if we look closely at it. So there's a difference, and so therefore we want to appreciate the language of the scripture,
la lengua,
and understand
lenguaje de las escrituras y entender
its value and
el valor
and the fact that knowledge of it may enable us to access
que conocer este idioma nos ayuda a tener acceso
the text and the content there
al texto mismo y su contenido
more so than if we're not familiar with the language.
Si no
but these are all
con ese idioma. Pero
languages of the world, and the world you want to go to is beyond language. So
y el mundo al que
beyond thought, where
llegar es un mundo que está más allá de la lengua.
And language go, but return.
Como dicen los
They try to go there,
es
but
una
they
realidad
can't.
donde las palabras
they can't.
llegan pero no alcanzan. O sea, las
Therefore, I
palabras
say
van
the
allí
language
y,
is
y
the
vuelven.
language. There is the language of love. Now we can say
Por eso
Spanish is the
dice que
language of
hay
love,
el
as they
lenguaje
do.
del
I think
amor.
Prabhupada said that, or Bengali is very similar.
Prabhupada dijo que el bengalí
feeling, very romantic, if you
es
will.
muy
That's
dulce y
true. But
romántico.
here we're talking about romantic love in the world, which in one sense is the antithesis of spiritual life, even though there's a similarity and so forth. So,
como sabemos,
so they're beautiful
totalmente opuesto
languages.
del amor trascendental, aunque haya similitudes.
But at the same time, the love we're talking about, the
Pero el amor
language
de que
of love, this
estamos
is
hablando,
bhava.
el lenguaje del amor de que estoy hablando es el bhava.
We can't put it into words, right?
Y esto no
We
se
can try
puede
to,
poner en
Rupa Goswami
palabras.
tried to talk about
Rupa
bhava,
Goswami
did,
trató de ponerlo
and those are
en
empowered
palabras,
words, but they don't do
y
justice
son
to what
palabras
the experience
poderosas
is.
las que usó, pero no le
But
hace
you
justicia a
know,
lo que es la
in love,
experiencia del bhava.
there are no questions.
Pero tampoco
no
hay
answers to be
que hablar
had.
mucho cuando hay amor. No
Love
hay
is the end of knowing, right? It's
El
the end
amor
of knowing. When
es
Krishna
donde
says in
se
the beginning of the
acaba el
Gita, he's
conocimiento.
going to teach the Raja Vidya, the highest knowledge. What does he end up
En el
saying?
Gita, Krishna dice, te voy a enseñar el Raja
Madhyacham
Vidya, el rey de los
Just love me.
conocimientos.
That's all.
¿Y qué es lo que
Think
dice
about me,
Manmana
love me.
Bhakta?
These are the ways.
Que pienses en mí y te hagas mi devoto
and so on and so forth.
y que desarrolles amor para mí.
You know, there's a nice song from
Hay una
my
canción
youth.
de mi
I wanted to say I love you, but the
juventud.
words got in the way.
Quería decirte te amo, pero las palabras se pusieron en el medio.
So our ideal sadhana bhakti has a goal.
El sadhana
goal of
bhakti
sadhana
tiene
bhakti
una meta.
is
La
bhava
meta del
bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is for preparing the heart.
El sadhana bhakti es para preparar el corazón
in such a way
de
that
forma tal
bhava will
que
manifest.
el bhava se manifieste.
Krishna Swarup Shakti will manifest.
Que la Swarup Shakti de Krishna se manifieste y surja.
And so, as I also say,
entonces, como también digo,
the center of Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course, is the Madhya Lila. Madhya Lila is teaching.
El Madhya Lila son enseñanzas.
El Antya Lila. The Adi Lila is the goal.
El Adi Lila es la meta.
Antya Lila is the result of the Madhya Lila. It corresponds with the goal in an esoteric sense. Krishna Chaitanya became a private person by the way in which he conducted himself publicly in Nam Sankirtan, Prem Nam Sankirtan, Prem Sankirtan. So that ultimately silenced him, right?
El Sankirtan que hizo durante el Madhya Lila lo cayó.
So what could be said about it?
Entonces la enseñanza ahí es qué es lo que podemos decir sobre esta experiencia.
From Vidyapati Jayadev, some verses about
Vidyapati Jayadev dicen algunos versos sobre el amor para entenderlos en su contexto.
So there's the language of silence.
La lengua
sound
es
of silence,
la del silencio,
right?
el sonido del silencio.
Yeah, the sound of it sounds contradictory, but there's a sound.
Parece una
contradicción. That's what Krishna consciousness says.
Pero
misunderstood, then it's just silent,
la conciencia de Krishna es el sonido que se encuentra en el silencio. Que claro, si se entiende mal, es Brahma Bhakti, lo que dicen los impersonalistas. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Pero entendido correctamente, quiere decir hablar solo de Krishna. Se refiere al chisme de Braja.
Not to be preoccupied with gossip and village talk.
Los Goswami nos dicen que no estemos involucrados con todos los chismes de la aldea hasta que lleguemos a Vrindavan. Y luego ahí lo queremos saber todo.
So again, there's a similarity in the reflection.
Entonces hay
but there's a huge
aspectos similares entre el mundo de la realidad y el reflejo.
Ramesh, can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
So what about the fact that it's said in the Vedas that the mantras that are comprised of Sanskrit are eternal and completely transcendental and pure?
En sánscrito son eternos y trascendentales y puros.
What their content is represented in sound,
el contenido,
and through the sound one enters into them.
está representado en el sonido y a
So
través del
wouldn't it be
sonido
that any
uno
language could be a
entra.
mantra or no?
Entonces, cualquier
If it's
lengua
just a
podría
representation.
ser un mantra, dice Guru Nishta, o es solo una representación
Well,
acústica,
I think
sonora.
that, you know,
Guru Maharaj dice,
we have the idea that, of course, well, let's talk about Krishna Nam.
bueno, hablemos de
Right?
Krishna Nama, mismo principio.
But it's not said to be Sanskrit.
No se dice que son palabras sánscritas.
Sanskrit is like the outer way in which it appears.
El nombre de Krishna,
like Krishna appears in the world,
su
appears to be an
aspecto más
ordinary
externo,
person.
sí, son parece ser
Depends
sílabas de
what
palabras
eyes, you know,
sánscritas.
you look at him. If your eyes are eyes tinged with the salve of love, then you'll see him everywhere. If you don't have love,
Si
you
uno
won't see him
tiene amor
anywhere,
en los
even if he's
ojos,
standing in
ve a
front of you.
Krishna
You
en
think,
todos lugares.
who's this?
Si uno no tiene
try to kill him,
mismo amor,
so,
Jarasandha tenía a Krishna
and so forth.
enfrente de sí
Obviously,
y no
they're
lo
not
reconoció.
seeing him. Prabhupada used to say, well, you know, Krishna,
Prabhupada decía,
only a few people really saw him.
solo algunos
Pandavas,
vieron
so
a
forth,
Krishna
his devotees understood
realmente,
him,
los pándavas,
but
los que
most
le
people not.
entendían.
So there's an outer, just like the Dham.
Así como
The
el
Dham
Dhamma.
has a protomaya. That's kind of like covering of the Dham.
El Dhamma tiene como
its reality from the eyes of
una
those
capa
who
lo
are
cubre.
not, or those who are not trying to see at first through the Shastra, with the ears, hearing,
no quieren acercarse a
and
él
then getting
a
eyes.
través de lo que
When you get
pueden
those
ver,
eyes, then you don't need to
a
hear the
través de los
scripture
oídos,
anymore.
a través de
So
las
it's similar.
escrituras.
So there's
Entonces es parecido.
Krishna Nam is Krishna himself.
Krishna Nama
It's
es Krishna.
a sound, but the sound
Es un
has
sonido,
an
pero
external side to it.
el sonido
Right?
tiene un aspecto externo
So
y
you could
uno
become expert in Sanskrit and
interior.
vibrate the name of
Uno
Krishna,
podría
and there are people that do that and have no
convertirse en un
devotion for
experto,
Krishna
ser todo un
whatsoever.
experto en
Right?
sánscrito y decirlo en nombre de Krishna,
help?
pero no tener devoción
Yes,
para
very
Krishna.
much. Thank you.
Sí, gracias.
Okay, the next question is from Sham Sundar,
La
our
siguiente
illustrious
pregunta
interpreter.
es de Shama Sundar, que
While I
está
dress Dauji
traduciendo, se la
Gopal,
voy a
I
leer.
can't help but
Cuando
noticing
estoy vistiendo
how
Dauji
half of their
Gopal,
jewelry comes from people
veo
who
que la
have
mitad
lost faith in
de
you over time, meaning Guru Maharaj,
las
and I'm
joyas
somewhat disturbed being
que
reminded of
con la que
them,
estoy
or
decorando
disturbed by
Krishna
the
Balaram
fact
vienen de
that this
devotos
is
que han
what I'm
perdido la
using to
fe en
decorate the
ti.
deities.
Entonces un
Luckily, I
poquito
was
me
already
molesta la
planning on
cosa.
making new wigs and jewelry,
De
so
todos
none of
modos
this
estoy
will be an
planeando
issue
hacer
in a few weeks.
más pelucas
But
y
I'm
más
wondering about my
collares.
feelings.
Pero me estoy
Shouldn't I
preguntando
be
sobre mis
generous and think
sentimientos.
that
¿No
all
debería
these
ser más
devotees are at
generoso
least reaping the benefits of
hacia
having their
estos
offerings
devotos
used in the
que por lo
service of
menos
Krishna and
están
Balaram?
recibiendo el beneficio
After
de
all, those
que
necklaces
sus
were offered
ofrendas
with
están
devotion at
decorando
the
Krishna
time?
y Balaram?
And
Después de
so there's a
todo, cuando la
little extra
ofrecieron
thing
eran
there.
devotos.
She says, then he
Luego hay
says,
una
I guess
segunda
my
parte.
broader question is
Mi
about
pregunta
how
más
petty it
amplia
would be
es
to
sobre
erase history,
la
pictures, and
pequeñez
items
de
instead
lo
of
que
learning
es
from it and keep it
cancelar la
as an
historia.
example.
First of all, I'd say there's not a lot of devotees who have made jewelry or done
Guru Maharaj dice,
Paul in our sangha.
no hay
It sounds
muchos
like there's half the
devotos.
devotees, so many devotees. So
No hay muchos
the way
devotos que
he
hicieron.
presented it maybe a little bit of give a distorted picture. But yeah, some devotees.
O sea, son pocos devotos que hicieron la mitad de los collares que tienen Krishna.
Left our sangha over the years and so forth.
Pero sí, muchos devotos se fueron o perdieron.
In the times that they were involved, contributed some jewelry or something to that effect. I think that
de todos modos, sí, algunos devotos contribuyeron con joyería, etc. Hay dos aspectos
they love in Krishna consciousness. There's
del amor en la conciencia de Krishna.
On the one hand,
hay la compasión universal de un lado
on the other.
Y luego el Bhakti Rasa del otro lado.
I saw someone gave a title at the Bhagavatam to a class the other day. The Bhagavatam teaches that love is unending forgiveness, something like that.
En una clase escuché a alguien decir que el Bhagavatam es perdón sin fin.
Comprehensive understanding
y no sé si esta
sea
una comprensión del Bhagavatam y del amor del Bhagavatam. Porque cuando llegamos al Bhakti Rasa es muy humano, Se parece mucho a la experiencia humana.
Surely we pass through universal compassion to come to Bhakti Rasa. That's
Entonces, sí, pasamos por la compasión universal para llegar al Bhakti Rasa.
Let worldly compassion,
pero no tenemos
in our perspective, take
que dejar
precedence
que la compasión
over Bhakti Rasa,
mundana
which
tenga la
sometimes
precedencia
shows
sobre el
itself
Bhakti Rasa.
in a way that looks
El cual, Bhakti Rasa,
unlike
se manifiesta de formas que
universal
parece
compassion.
muy diferentes
Why
de lo
was
que
Chaitanya
es la
Mahaprabhu
compasión
upset
universal.
with
Porque Chaitanya Mahaprabhu estaba
any number of them?
tan enojado
The one
con,
I'm thinking of,
bueno, el que sea, me sale el
Chota
nombre de uno.
Haridas.
Chota Haridas, por ejemplo.
Why didn't he show universal
Porque
compassion?
no le
Chota
demostró
Haridas.
compasión.
Why was he upset with him?
Porque
There are many.
le regañó.
Why was he upset with Jagai and Madai, and Nityananda Prabhu wasn't?
¿Por qué él estaba enojado con Jagai y Madhai y Nityananda Prabhu
Of
no?
course, in that instance, Nityananda Prabhu wasn't because it was he who was offended.
Nityananda Prabhu es el que
Himself that was offended.
a que ofendieron.
But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was upset because Nityananda
Y Chaitanya
Prabhu
Mahaprabhu
was
estaba
offended. He was
enojado
very
porque
angry.
Nityananda Prabhu había sido ofendido.
And so I'm speaking about the fact that in Bhakti Rasa, the love is human-like. It's just common human psychology. If you, let's say you have a wife.
Bueno, digamos que tienes una
or as a wife you have
mujer,
a husband,
una
or as a
esposa,
wife and husband you have children, and somebody attacks your children, attacks your wife, vilifies your husband, publicly, and so on and so
le ofende a
forth.
tu esposo, esposa en
Are you going
público.
to feel, oh, we should be compassionate towards him, and so on and so forth?
¿Qué vas
No,
a
the more
sentir?
dear that
¿Compasión?
person is to
No,
you,
entre más querido
just be
sea
practical, y'all. You think of
tu
yourself.
esposo,
Today,
etcétera.
you men out there who are married, if your wife was raped by somebody,
imagínate que
your first reaction would not be
a tu esposa.
Unlimited compassion for that person, right?
reacción no va a ser una de compasión universal.
This is love psychology.
Esta es la psicología del amor.
That is love.
Y esto es
love
amor.
for your wife.
Amor para tu esposa.
In this instance. And love for justice, you could
amor
say.
Para la justicia,
also,
también se podría decir.
Act and so forth.
Como fue un acto
so we find
justo.
this in Krishna Lila. Now,
Entonces, también se
the wonderful
encuentra
thing
en el
about
de
Bhakti
Krishna.
Rasa, of course, is that
la cosa
when
maravillosa
Chaitanya
del Bhakti
Mahaprabhu or
Rasa
Krishna is
es
upset with someone,
cuando Chaitanya Mahaprabhu y Krishna
that
están enojados
is good
con
for them.
alguien, eso es bueno
Because
para ellos.
whether Krishna is pleased with us,
porque que Krishna
or our Guru is
esté
pleased with us,
complacido de
or
nosotros,
upset with
o el
us,
guru,
that we can
o que esté
deal
enojado,
with. If they're indifferent to us,
siempre
then
está
that's
bien.
a problem.
Lo
If
más
the Guru
malo
becomes indifferent towards
es
the
la
disciple, then he
indiferencia.
or she
Cuando el
thinks,
guru o
what
Krishna
can I do? I
es
can't,
indiferente hasta
I can't
nosotros
save him.
y piensa
I'm
que puede
unteachable.
hacer, no lo puedo rescatar,
But if
es
he's upset with him,
irrescatable.
then
Pero
he's
mientras el
upset
guru
because I
esté
love you when you're
enojado con
acting like this,
nosotros
and
es
it's
porque
bad,
nos
and it's
ama.
not good for you.
Y lo que estamos haciendo no es bueno para
Parents love their
nosotros.
children, but they
Los
get upset with them
padres
when they do
aman a los
something that's not
niños,
in their own interest.
pero se enojan con ellos
So
cuando
love
hacen
has
algo
different ways
que
in
va
which
contra de sus intereses.
it expresses itself when we look at the full picture.
Entonces hay que ver la
Right?
imagen
So we want to
completa.
come full circle. We want to come out of the pettiness of material
Entonces,
love, which is I
queremos
love one person,
sacarnos
which means
de
I
la
don't love the
pequeñez
other
del
person.
amor
I love one
material,
country
que
and I don't love
amo
the
a
other,
un país y
whatever
no amo
may
a
be the
otro
case.
país, amo a una persona, pero quiere
So
decir que no
two
amo a
sides
todos
of
los
the coin, they
demás.
should be the same.
Son las
So from
dos
that we
caras
come
de la
to
moneda.
universal
De
love
ahí
and compassion.
llegamos
But
al amor y
our
compasión
ideal is beyond
universal,
this
pero nuestro
as
ideal
well.
es
So
aún
we
más
have to remember
arriba.
that.
Tenemos que
And
recordarlo.
it plays out within Vaishnavism. In Chaitanya
En
Lila,
el
for example,
Vaishnavismo se
Chaitanya
ve.
Mahaprabhu was upset with Vallabhacharya
Chaitanya
in
Mahaprabhu
Jagannath
estaba
Puri,
enojado con
and none of the
Vallabhacharya en
devotees
Jagannath Puri,
would entertain him,
y ninguno
his
de los
audience.
devotos le
They
hablaban,
avoided him.
lo
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was
evitaban.
upset with him. We are going to avoid
Chaitanya
him. That was their
Mahaprabhu
policy.
está enojado con
Only
él,
Gadadhar
nosotros
Pandit
lo
gave
vamos a
in
evitar.
due
Solo
to the
Gadadhar
fact that he was
Pandit,
in like Rukmini Bhav.
debido a su bhava
That's a
interno de Rukmini,
higher thing, and Chaitanya
es una cosa
Mahaprabhu
muy
wanted to
elevada.
see that bhav in him.
Y Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quería
So
ver
it's-
este bhava
so
en
in the
Gadadhar.
heart, he orchestrated that.
Entonces en su corazón
and Vallabha and
orquestó todo esto.
Gadadhar Pandit gave
Entonces,
the
Gadadhar
audience
Pandit
to
le dio darshan Vallabhacharya,
which ultimately resulted in Vallabhacharya receiving the Radha Krishna mantra from
que Vallabhacharya recibiera el mantra de
Gadadhar Pandit, and as such, there is a form of Gopi Bhav in the Vallabha Sampradaya.
Una forma de Gopi Bhava enseñada en el Vallabha Sampradaya.
Interesting topic, todo, sure.
Otro asunto.
But
pero
by and large, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hadn't arranged this and wanted to see that particular bhava
no hubiese querido ver este bhava
Puri,
surgir
in Gadadhar Pandit,
en Gadadhar Pandit,
he would not have entertained like all of the other devotees. They all avoided
tampoco Gadadhar Pandit
like
le hubiera hablado a Vallabhacharya.
Oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was upset with him,
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu está
but he's a devotee,
pero él es un devoto.
We should be compassionate towards him. They didn't think that way, but they were compassionate. It's not that their avoidance of him was devoid of compassion.
Lo evitaron para como forma de compasión.
Their feelings for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Pero sus sentimientos para Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Let's say, I mean, he didn't really offend Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but there are other instances in which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is offended and the devotees take exception. It's hard, however, to find an example of a devotee that offends, unfortunately, in the literature. But we have lots of them in everyday life in this world. Lots of devotees that make offenses. That's the problem. But in Chaitanya Lila, well, the devotees aren't the ones that are making offenses. But it's kind of a similar thing. Mahaprabhu took exception to Vallabha's
Pero digamos, en el caso de Vallabha, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu
pride, if you will, expressed as, I have made a better commentary than
no le gustó el orgullo de
Vallabhacharya. Please listen to it.
Porque Vallabhacharya se presentó con un comentario, según él mejor del comentario de Sridhar Swami, y Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quedó fastidiado y todos los asociados empezaron a evitarlo.
So the compassion may show itself in different ways at different times. Now, in the case of yourself, Shyam Sundar, most of the devotees, you don't have universal compassion and you don't have bhakti rasa. So does any of this apply to either of you, to any of you is the question. But I think that it does, and I think that we have to think along these lines, and we have to also be very, practical. The feelings that we have, some of the devotees that we were talking about, a couple of them, only a couple, they did become very offensive. Now, how I think about them and how you think about them, may be slightly different. Someone was very uncharitably speaking, let's say, very uncharitably about me the other day.
Estuvo hablando de forma no muy generosa, digamos, sobre mí el otro día.
And one of my disciples here,
y uno de mis discípulos aquí,
was very upset about that.
Estaba muy enojada.
They said that about Guru Maharaj.
¿Cómo pudieron decir esto sobre Guru Maharaj?
And I said, well,
y yo dije, bueno.
I kind of played it down and so forth. And she became upset. She said, well, if it was about Prabhupada, how would you feel? Then I said, well, yeah, I understand how you
ella dijo, pero si fuera sobre Prabhupada, ¿cómo reaccionaría? Y ahí
So I think that
me inflamé todo. Entonces,
that your guru,
tu guru,
in this case, Shyam Sundar, he has compassion for people. And you should respond in a way that feels natural for you with regard to your particular situation, worshiping the deity. Well, you shouldn't worship the deity with a disturbed mind. So if there's something in the service that disturbs your mind, put that down. That's the first thing. If certain devotees have offended myself or other devotees that are dear to you, or Krishna, and so forth, then if we think about them in a way that constitutes being upset with them, mad at them, we shouldn't think that that's necessarily bad for them. You're a devotee. They were devotees. They offended. You're upset with them.
Tú eres un devoto. Ellos son devotos. Ellos hicieron algo ofensivo. Estás enojado.
That will register with Krishna.
Entonces, si estás enojado hacia ellos, Krishna toma nota.
Or it will register with your guru.
y tu guru va a tomar
they
nota.
feel like this. It's actually a loving feeling for your, superior.
Entonces es un sentimiento de amor para tus superiores. Entonces Krishna y el Guru
universal compassion will feel
tienen la
compassion towards
capacidad de tener
those persons. So
compasión
you may
universal
foster the compassion
hacia
that you
estos devotos.
yourself don't feel
Entonces,
by
la compasión que no tienes
expressing
tú,
yourself in a way that
sintiéndote estorbado
corresponds with
al ver
bhakti
esta
rasa,
joyería,
even though you don't have it, but is
de una forma que
nonetheless
corresponde al bhakti rasa, aunque no lo tengas ahora,
a genuine manifestation or expression
es una manifestación o expresión
I don't think
genuina
that
de amor.
anyone who
Yo no
feels
pienso
upset
que
with devotees,
hay
like I have
nadie
godbrothers that
que se
offended
siente
Prabhupada, I'm upset with them.
enojado
It
hacia
doesn't
devotos que
mean that I don't
ofendieron
have
a
compassion
Prabhupada.
for them, but if
Yo
they
estoy
need to
enojado con
rectify
algunos hermanos
themselves,
espirituales que ofendieron a
as soon
Prabhupada.
as they would, immediately we let them in the door. Oh, come back in. Okay.
Es que tienen que corregirse.
like
Nada
that.
más se corrigen, la puerta está abierta para ellos. Eso es compasión.
If they care about you, the same devotees,
si estos devotos
they know you feel upset with them,
saben
they
que
won't
estás
want to
enojado con
remain in
ellos,
that position, perhaps.
a lo
as
mejor
well.
no van a querer quedarse
I don't think
en
you should
esa
deny your
posición.
feelings.
Entonces no deberías
and I think
negar tus sentimientos.
there are different ways to
Hay diferentes
think about such
maneras
situations
de
in which you
pensar
go
en
with them,
estas
and it depends
cosas.
how close we are to the offense, the offender and the offended. We're going to
Depende de
respond
lo
differently. It's
cerca que
easy for someone to
estamos de
say,
la
"Oh, you should be
ofensa.
compassionate."
Es
But if it
fácil
was
para
your
uno
wife,
decir,
then you
debería
wouldn't be
ser
saying the same
compasivo
thing.
hasta que
So,
el asunto es sobre tu esposo o
so I
tu
think
hijo, tus
that
hijos.
obviously, in the
Por supuesto,
instance you give their devotees, like let's take
caso, bueno,
Prabhupada's disciple Nitai.
digamos los
He
discípulos de
basically
Prabhupada,
translated the
Nitai,
Chaitanya Charitamrita
él
in
tradujo el
Prabhupada's
Chaitanya
direction, but then he
Charitamrita
offended
bajo
Prabhupada and left it.
la
And he said
instrucción de
some,
Prabhupada, pero luego ofendió a
has
Prabhupada
written and said
y
some very
dejó
offensive things about
y escribió
Prabhupada
cosas
and
muy
Bhaktisiddhanta
ofensivas
and
sobre
Bhakti
Prabhupada,
Vinod. But
Bhaktisiddhanta,
are we going to throw
Bhaktivinoda.
out the Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Entonces, ¿qué?
No, we
Vamos
don't have another translation, so
a echar
we're
la
not going
traducción
to.
del
But
Chaitanya
the
Charitamrita. No tenemos otra
situation may
traducción.
present itself, as it is in your case.
Pero en tu caso,
So it depends how you feel on a particular day, how you're going to deal with that.
según el día como te sientas,
Your feelings towards those devotees could go
cómo te sientes
either
hacia
way.
estos
But I
devotos,
think if you feel upset on a day, then
puede ir de una
you
forma
shouldn't
u
offer
otra.
the jewelry that
Pero si en
that
ese
person,
día te sientes
donated
enojado,
on that day. Another day
mejor
you
si
may
no
feel differently.
ofreces esa joyería a las
Does
deidades.
that help?
Y otro día, si no te molesta, está bien.
Again, being upset with a devotee for having done something, made an offense,
Enojarse con un devoto para haber hecho algo ofensivo de por sí no es una contradicción a la idea que un devoto debería ser compasivo. Ni más ni menos que un padre enojándose con los niños. De hecho, podría ser el opuesto. Muchas veces la compasión se puede manifestar de forma muy fuerte.
So I don't think we want to have, at the other side of it, just this very sentimental idea of compassion.
Entonces no tenemos que tener una idea muy sentimental de lo que es la compasión.
It's not realistic.
Que no es realística.
You couldn't, run the world like that.
Uno no podría gobernar el mundo así.
He killed somebody, but anyway, we have to forgive him. Maybe he needs to be,
él sí mató a nadie, a alguien, pero hay que ser compasivo. No, hay que corregirlo, porque si no va a matar a otra persona.
Necessarily thinking like that. Lack of compassion, but it's an expression of it that it's pragmatic and practical and real, and not just
no es una falta de compasión, sino una expresión pragmática de compasión que aparenta como compasión.
Which, when it's fully expressed,
cuando la compasión está plenamente expresa,
one can't function in the world.
Expresada,
you take
uno no puede
Vasudeva
funcionar en el mundo.
So
tomemos
he had leprosy,
a Vasudeva, que tenía lepra.
Living off the sores on his body, and they would
él tenía
fall
gusanitos en las heridas abiertas que tenía.
I mean, you can't
y él
live in a world
recogía
like
los
that.
gusanos que se caían para que no se murieran de hambre. Estaban comiendo a su cuerpo. Nosotros no podemos vivir así, ¿verdad? No podemos tener compasión universal, material a ese nivel. Porque la compasión pertenece a otro mundo, como podemos ver. Y además Mahaprabhu lo instruyó de otra forma. Le dijo, aun si voy a liberar a todas las almas de este mundo, hay infinitos mundos, universos. ¿A qué va a servir? Espero que te ayudó.
Just a quick thought. It's almost like that's a form of spiritual bypassing to imitate that universal compassion.
Es como una forma de,
so few devotees are actually there.
De imitación.
The next question is a follow-up by Kanuram on the Krishnanam.
La siguiente pregunta es de Kanurama sobre el
Krishnanam answer.
You were talking about Krishnanam in the context of Sanskrit and mantras and stuff. So he had a follow-up.
Kanurama tiene una pregunta sobre Krishnanam.
Kanuram.
Good morning, Guru Maharaj.
Buenos días, Guru
Maharaj. Can't hear
you. I can hear. Kanuram, do you have the English and original? Okay.
How about now?
Guru Maharaj, did you choose English and mute original audio? Because I can hear Kanuram.
Yeah, I chose English and mute original audio. Should I unmute the original? Oops, now I just chose Spanish.
How about now?
Yeah, now I can hear.
Ahora sí me escuchas.
Okay. So my question is about chanting Krishnanam in English, per se.
Mi pregunta es sobre cantar el nombre de Krishna.
I heard Prabhupada, some people asked Prabhupada about it, and I heard his response, and I don't know if I've ever heard you talk about it that way, but like, could a person chant the names of God in English in the form of a mantra and expect to have the same efficacy of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra in Sanskrit,
la
so to
misma
speak?
eficacia que cantar en sánscrito?
I think that you could say that theoretically that's the case, and we do find that in the subcontinent of India, where Gaudiya Vaishnavism was spread, it was adapted in different areas with nuance and so forth, like the Manipuri, Gaudiya Vaishnavas,
Por ejemplo, vemos que los
Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and so forth. They're all a little different in their diet. They're a little different in the way they may do kirtan.
Tienen un régimen diferente, comen diferente.
There's the famous deity that was found at the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Hay una deidad
que
se encontró
for the temple.
En el Yoga Pit,
following the vision of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Hoxha, the deity was found, and the deity has high cheekbones and a square chin, like the people of Silet, which is close to old Assam, which is close to China, which is where Jagannath Misra was from before moving to Mayapur. And so
del norte,
que es evidence to support that this was his household deity. But the cute thing or the charming thing about it is, well, in Assam,
la casa de
the deities were crafted of Krishna somewhat in consideration of how people, looked in Assam.
En Assam, en Manipur, allá en el norte, las deidades de Krishna.
There's something to be said for that, obviously.
Se hacían semejantes.
But at the same time, I think that,
la gente del lugar.
As I said earlier, there's value in the original languages which lend themselves, more in sound and syllables, letters, and whatnot. And we're originally empowered. The language in which the empowered feelings appeared and so on and so forth. But Krishna, one of his qualities is that he speaks all languages. Right?
Bueno, una característica de Krishna es que él habla todos los idiomas. Yo lo escuché hablando en inglés.
I don't know if it even existed at the time of Krishna, but it does now.
Ni siquiera existía en el tiempo de Krishna.
Me in Sanskrit,
y existe ahora, y a mí no me habló en sánscrito.
So yeah, and I've seen that recently I was asked to write something for a publication that by the disciples of Atulananda Maharaj in
Un
Chile.
discípulo de Atulananda Maharaj me preguntó sobre una publicación en Chile.
They're publishing a book
Están
of his
publicando
poetic
un libro
Spanish renderings of songs of Bhaktivinoda and
canciones de Bhaktivinoda Thakur
and so
traducidas de forma
And
poética
so
al
I
español.
wrote a nice
Y yo
kind of introduction to that, and
escribí una introducción sobre este libro
and appreciated
de apreciación.
that they sing the songs there. And of course, it depends, on
Y bueno, también depende.
in this sense, with
En
such
este
songs,
sentido,
the ability of the translator
para cada canción, lo que es la
really
habilidad del
convey,
traductor de
which requires
verdaderamente
understanding and feeling for the subject matter.
transferir el sentimiento que es
convey it in language,
de un
but
idioma al
it's
otro.
possible.
Pero
You're
sí es
talking
posible.
about Krishna, the name of God,
Estabas hablando
Krishna, I
del
don't know how
nombre
you
de
would say
Krishna.
Krishna in English.
O
All
sea, no sé-
attractive, all attractive, all
No sé
attractive.
cómo vas a
I don't
decir
think
Krishna
that's as
en
attractive
inglés. Todo atractivo, todo atractivo,
as a
todo
mantra
atractivo. De
as
por sí
Krishna.
no es muy
All
atractivo.
attractive, all attractive, all
Todo
attractive.
atractivo. Todo atractivo,
Or
todo
some
atractivo, todo
other
atractivo.
English rendering of
Hay
it,
otras
or in
formas
any other
de traducir los nombres de Krishna en
language.
inglés o en otro
We're not
idioma.
recommended, to do that. So while there is a place for it in an extended sense,
Entonces, yo no lo recomiendo,
I think,
aunque haya
the two syllables Krishna contain. There are
maneras
things,
de
there are
hacerlo en
ideas,
ciertos
there are
contextos.
feelings
Las dos
that
sílabas
other languages
Krishna
don't have the
contienen
capacity
y
to do justice
transfieren
to. In which
ciertos
case, we should use the
sentimientos
language that
al
has
mismo
been
tiempo de una forma que otros
employed
idiomas no pueden.
by great
Entonces,
saints in the past to
hay
express
que aprovecharlo.
those types of ideas. But to the extent to which our language lends itself to that expression, well, then it may be.
Sin embargo, ahí donde nuestro idioma se pueda acercar y pueda funcionar,
translatable and
traduciendo
and
todo
useful.
esto, no hay nada mal.
I mean, there's two sides to it. The one
Hay
side
dos
is
caras
to bring people into
de
it,
esto.
right? That's why it's said,
Una
well,
es
if you're
involucrar a
if
cuanta
you're a
más gente
Sudra, you should have a
posible.
Sudra guru. If you're a Chatra, you should have a Chatra guru. If you're from Chile, you should have a guru from Chile.
Por
If you're
ejemplo, uno
from
podría decir que si uno es de Chile, tiene que tener un gurú de Chile, si es de Bulgaria, que tenga
well,
un
that's
gurú
true from the
búlgaro.
relative point of view,
Bueno,
because
sí,
the
del punto
cultural
de vista,
similarities will lend
de un
themselves
punto de vista
to
relativo,
communication,
porque
right?
hay similitudes.
And the guru needs to communicate the ideas. But of course, above and beyond that, from the
Los
absolute
rasgos
perspective,
culturales son
we need a
parecidos,
qualified, a
la
spiritually
comunicación es
qualified
mejor,
guru. So that's
pero
a
al fin y al cabo el
secondary
guru
thing,
tiene que ser uno
right?
que esté
You need a
cualificado
qualified guru,
espiritualmente.
and then in the context
Esto es
of
lo
that, well,
que
if
importa, que
he
el
or
guru
she
esté
also
cualificado.
is
Y
closer
luego
to
también,
us,
si
like
es del mismo
Prabhupada, I would see
país,
sometimes
que si habla el
when
mismo
some
idioma,
Indian boys were in the darshan and they were
yo vi
coming for the first
muchas
time.
veces algunos
And then after the
muchachos
darshan,
indios de
Prabhupada
la
would ask,
India
so you understand? And they go, yes, yes. And Prabhupada would go, okay.
vinieron
And
por la primera
then you'd find
vez
him in the kitchen washing pots. Prabhupada would give the signal. That if you understand, it means you should be washing pots or something like that.
tomando darshan
Meaning
y
a
Prabhupada
service.
dijo,
So they
bueno,
would be
entonces
there.
hizo
They
como un
would pick
gesto
up
con la
on
mano. Ellos
things that
sabían
were
que
more
quería decir, bueno,
difficult
si has
for us to
entendido,
pick up
ponte
on.
a lavar los
There's just
trastes.
a
Y en
knowing,
minutos
right?
después lo veías en la cocina haciendo
So
servicio
again,
devocional,
value for us for
porque la
learning some of
cultura era
the
la misma
languages
y
and cultures and so forth. And
el
then,
idioma era el
the
mismo.
limits of them as well, giving the universality of what we're
También hay limitaciones,
speaking
como estaba
about.
diciendo,
It's not
considerando
an
la
Indian thing.
universalidad de que estamos hablando.
It's something about, it's for all jivas, right?
Es algo para todos los
That help?
jivas, lo de que estamos hablando. ¿Está bien?
Yes, okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good.
Sí, gracias.
Krishna, 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 Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna.
Krishna, Krishna, dice
Hey.
Guru Maharaj.
Okay, well, that's,
Bueno.
I don't know if we have more questions, but we don't
No
have
sé
any
si hay
more
más
time.
preguntas, pero no hay
So,
más tiempo.
There's one short question. Could we
Solo hay
push it
una
in?
corta,
Yeah.
dice Guru
at your request.
Very good. So this is from Dayal Nitai from Bulgaria. He couldn't be
Dayal
here
Nitai de
because of
Bulgaria.
work, but he wanted to ask you, Pranam Guru Maharaj, I would like to ask how a
quisiera
Grihastha
preguntar
devotee
cómo
at the
un
stage of
grihastha
Nishta looks like
en
in
el
our contemporary
estadio de
context.
Nishta
How does he think? How does
se
he
ve,
feel? How
cómo
does
se
he
comporta,
behave?
cómo piensa, cómo
Also, what
habla,
anarthas he could still be struggling with?
y qué anartas puede que tenga todavía.
Well, I don't think that the anarthas
Guru
that a
Maharaj dice,
grihastha
no
could be struggling with in
pienso
Nishta would be necessarily
que los anartas de un grihastha
different than
en
those
Nishta
of
sean diferentes
monk
categóricamente
or a
de
brahmachari,
los anartas con que esté luchando un brahmachari.
given that in Nishta,
Considerando que en Nishta, en el estadio de
the
Nishta,
primary obstacles or anarthas are
los
overcome.
obstáculos principales
So
ya se han
it's a
superado.
stage in which
Es un estadio
surpasses anartha nivritti.
supera anartha nivritti.
There's anishta bhajana kriya and nishta
Se
bhajana
encuentra el
kriya.
anishta bhajana kriya y luego nishta
Because that's another
bhajana
way of
kriya.
talking about it. So when you're bhajana kriya,
Entonces, cuando el
your
bhajana
activities
kriya,
of
cuando
bhajana
nuestras
practice
actividades en la
are
práctica
anishta, unsteady, the
son
reason is because of anarthas.
inestables, la
When
razón son
the
los
practice
anarthas.
becomes steady and
Cuando la
fixed,
práctica es
the reason is
estable,
because of the absence of anarthas. Now,
eso es por la
Thakur is talking
ausencia de
about
los anarthas.
the extent to which
Entonces,
anarthas would
Vishwanath
be
Chakravarti
removed at
Thakur
nishta, the extent to which they'll be
habla
removed
que
at
en la
asakti, the
medida
extent to which they'll
que
be removed in bhava, and
los
so forth. But
anarthas
the primary
se van yendo en Nishta, en Asakti, en
obstacles
Bhava,
in terms of
etc.
anarthas are removed. And so there shouldn't be
Pero
much
la mayoría de los
difference
obstáculos en Nishta
in that regard between a
ya no
grihasta
se
and a monk.
encuentran. Entonces no debería
But
haber
how should
diferencia
a monk,
entre
or how should a
brahmachari y
grihasta in
grihasta.
the stage of
Pero
nishta
¿cómo debería un
conduct himself?
grihasta
Well,
comportarse, hablar
the
y
grihasta
pensar?
who's in nishta will know
Bueno,
by
un
nishta itself how
grihasta
to conduct
en
oneself,
Nishta
but
sabría, debido a
they
su
will
propio
conduct
Nishta, él
themselves
ya sabría
differently
cómo
than a
comportarse.
monk because the
Y
situation is
sabría
entirely different.
cómo
Obviously,
comportarse de forma
in
diferente de
the
un monje
discourse
porque se
of
encuentran en contextos
Baladev
diferentes.
Vidyabhushana, he
Baladeva Vidyabhushana
posits the idea of three types of devotees:
dice que hay tres
sanishta,
tipos de devotos: sanishta,
Parinishta,
parinishta, and
parinishta
nirapeksha.
y nirapeksha.
So the parinishta is a
El
devotee
parinishta
who
es
is
un
a
devoto
householder
que
who
está casado,
is parinishta fixed in the ideal. So
y
you
está
could say he's
fijo
in the
en el
stage
ideal.
of
Entonces
nishta,
uno
and
puede
in
decir que
the
está en nishta.
context of
Y en el
his
contexto
or her
de su
married household life, well,
vida
there are duties and
de familia,
obligations that
hay
arise that
deberes y
won't arise for a
obligaciones
monk who doesn't have
que
children, doesn't have a
surgen
household to take care
que no
of.
le van a
He
pasar a un
has to go
monje que
out
no
and
tiene
beg,
hijos, pero él tiene que salir y
in
mendigar
order to live, so he has to do something. But the grihasta has some to be
limosnar.
gainfully employed and
Pero el
requires a little
grihasta
bit more
tiene
than
un
just
trabajo.
basic sustenance for himself. He has to sustain the
Entonces,
children, and and that requires a house, and it becomes more complicated
al tener
in
hijos,
modern
uno tiene que
society,
tener una casa, etc.
largely. But that said, the parinishta devotee
Sin embargo, el
is,
parinishta,
in Baladev's
el
perspective,
devoto parinishta,
one
la
who
perspectiva de
follows the
Bhaladeva,
social
es uno que
norms
sigue las normas
of the
sociales
time, which would be the varnashram
del
system.
tiempo, o sea, el varnashram,
And all of those social norms and social
y todas
obligations, social religious
estas
obligations,
normas
he
sociales
adheres
y
to, and so forth, even
obligaciones
knowing that they don't
socio-religiosas,
enhance his
sabiendo
bhakti,
que no le hacen nada
or
para su bhakti,
the foregoing them won't negatively
ni
affect his
tanto
bhakti.
seguirlas como no
He or she
seguirlas.
understands this,
Él
but for
entiende
the sake of
todo esto, pero
living in the
para el
society and
bien
being
de la
thought of as an
sociedad
upright
en que
person
vive,
in the
para que
eyes of
piensen
others,
bien de
he
él
or she
y
follows the varnashram system without attachment to it, and sets an example as an ideal person, which then becomes attractive to
para que él se
common
convierta en
people
un
who don't have
ejemplo
shraddha
ideal
in bhakti,
para los que no
and
tienen Shraddha en
by
Bhakti,
extension
y
of
por
their
extensión,
attraction to you, then a teachable moment may be created, and
siendo
they may become devotees
apegadas
as well.
a este
So
tipo de
Prabhupada taught a
devotos,
similar thing to his
se
disciples, that
abre
they should be
una ventana de oportunidad para que se
ideal
abran Bhakti.
citizens
Prabhupada dice que así
in the
debería que
world.
ser el ciudadano ideal.
And given that they have to have some livelihood, they should, be the best in their field, something like that.
Entonces, como tienen un trabajo, deberían
So they
ser
can
los
put
mejores en su
some
trabajo.
passion into whatever is their means of livelihood,
Que
and
pongan un poquito de pasión en su forma
stand
de
out
sustentarse,
amongst others in the same field, and thereby
y para que sobresalgan
attract people to themselves, so to
en los
speak, by
ojos de
that
sus
example,
compañeros de
and
trabajo
create a teachable moment. This was
y
his
crear un
idea,
momento
basically. Now, we don't live in a varnashram society, and what it means to be an ideal citizen, well, there are obviously different political, opinions.
Ahora no vivimos en un contexto similar y hay muchas opiniones políticas diferentes.
And so forth. But I think that there are common.
Pero pienso que hay.
There's a lot of common ground that you can't really disagree with in terms of what it means to be an ideal
Hay muchas
person.
Ideas donde nadie estaría de acuerdo cuando se habla de lo que sería un ciudadano ideal, como
love your neighbor like yourself, be
el
compassionate.
ideal de Jesús, que amemos a nuestro prójimo como a nosotros, que tengamos compasión.
And you take from both sides, I suppose, that the conservative and the liberal perspective are in each in need of some balance. And
tanto la perspectiva liberal como la conservadora necesitan
and live as an ideal
y nosotros
citizen.
Nos encontramos
and
en
with the sense, as I've said before, that as a grihasta, I need the company of a partner, and maybe together we need children to feel emotionally whole and complete. These are very, very powerful emotional, physical, human drives that are not just to be ignored. And that's the power of bhakti. You don't have to ignore them and become, mityacharas, false, renunciate. The power of bhakti is that they can be lived out in a way that is conducive.
Si no podemos practicar bhakti
yoga, gyan, they
de
don't.
la posición en la que estemos. En el llano
So
esto no es
we look at it as if I need a wife, I need a husband,
Entonces,
I need children.
Necesito
and
una
these
mujer, necesito
are helping
marido,
me in such a way
hijos,
that certain aspects of my humanness that are powerful and draw on my mind are answered, and therefore they're an attendant or an assistant to my bhakti, because if my mind is, without them, my mind will be distracted and I won't be able to focus on bhakti. So let me, see them therefore as worshipable aspects of my sadhana. Because I have this, therefore the problem is being solved that makes my life more conducive to bhakti. Then you live in a worshipable situation. But you have to really keep that, central focus.
Siempre y cuando uno no pierda el enfoque central.
Deteriorate into, well, as one of my God sisters once told Prabhupada, my service is going to be to raise Krishna conscious children, and Prabhupada said, that's not enough.
Mi servicio va a ser criar niños conscientes de Krishna. Y Prabhupada dijo,
what I'm talking about is, it's not an easy thing to do, but it requires nishta. And so, as I said earlier,
y esto no es fácil, pero sí requiere nishta. Entonces, por eso que te dije, cuando uno está al nivel de nishta, ya sabe cómo comportarse.
So, with that,
bueno, con eso, ya sabe cómo comportarse.
We'll stop for the day.
Nos paramos por el día y nos vemos la semana que viene.
Shila Guru Maharaj ki jai. So one quick announcement. Next Thursday, there's a class by Dayal Nitai. And he's going to be speaking on how are our emotional wounds related to our anarthas. So kind of connected to this question somewhat that he asked today. And that's at, let's see, 10:30 Eastern time next Thursday. So hope to see you there. And I think that's it. Well, one thing I should mention is Guru Maharaj's Vyasa Puja and the Gaur Purnim Festival is going to be in North Carolina the first weekend of extended weekend of March. So if you guys can make it there, that'd be fantastic. I can't unfortunately make it, but I hope a good chunk of you guys can make it, so we'll make a nice festival. Okay, that's it for this week. Let's get together next week.